Greetings and welcome, everyone, to the Beers and Bodyslams podcast. Sitting across from me is a man whose feet never smell like onions and butter chicken.
Oh,
Mr. Fluffy.
that's just gross.
I said never smell. Never smell.
Oh.
Jinder Mahal's feet smell like that.
Sitting across from me is the man that George the Animal Steel would hug and go, mine, mine, mine.
Right before he chews my face off and spits it out because it looks like a turnbuckle.
Irish. Remember the mine doll?
Yeah, totally.
Creepy little... Ugh.
Anyway, we've got a fascinating show because we're talking all about the world of jobbers. You know, jobbers. You don't see them so much in WWE now unless you're trying to build a monster. Nia Jax and Braun Strowman. I'm looking right at you guys.
There's a few around still.
Well, yeah, now there are. But anyway, so we're talking about jobbers. We're talking about a little bit about the history of jobbers, what their purpose is, who they are, and some of our favorites through the years. And we have a pretty interesting beer that we're going to talk about. New year, new brewery.
That's right.
We're going to talk about that and so much more. We come right back.
Awesome!
This is the Beers and Bodyslams podcast
I'm afraid I've got some bad news.
with your host, Mr. Fluffy,
Hello, ladies.
good old JB,
Booty-O's! They make sure you ain't booty.
and the Irish O'Leary.
There's only one word to describe you, and I'm gonna spell it out for you. A-A-W-S-T!
This is the only podcast bringing you craft beer and pro wrestling that really matters.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, E-Generation X proudly brings to you its WWF Tag Team Champion of the World, the Road Dogg Jesse James, the Badass Billy Gunn, the new.
And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
All right, tell us about this new beer that we're drinking, everybody.
So we are drinking from Jackie O's
Jackie O.
in the fine city, from the fine city of Athens, Ohio.
Yeah.
We are drinking their Dark Apparition, which is their Russian Imperial Stout. It is a 10.5% beer.
Oh, God, help me going home.
It is really good.
That's great.
It's different. It's definitely a Russian, but you get that hardiness to it. It's coffee and chocolate all the way.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's all you taste.
Yeah.
This would be good. I think this would be good with dessert. This would be good with a steak.
Yep.
Like really good with a steak.
Yeah, something hearty, maybe maybe spare ribs or
Good stew.
Something like a big pot of stew would be amazing. And unlike some imperial stouts, like I keep picking on them, Cigar City, they burned me with that one imperial stout where the swallow is, you're like burning. But this one's really nice. It's got a wonderful aftertaste. It stays on the palate. It's very comfortable. It's not harsh. This is not a entry-level beer.
No, this is a complicated beer. This is something that you get later.
You want to work your way into this bad boy.
Yeah,
it's totally worth it. Totally great. Love it.
But Jackie O's, I like it. It's a new brewery. I went to my local establishment to look for beers this week, and this was behind the counter, and that's the first thing I always do.
So it's behind the counter?
Yeah, it was
ABC?
No, it was Total Wine.
Nice.
Yeah, if you any good beer, especially Total Wine does it a lot. ABD once in a while. If you have a local beer place, the first thing I always do when I walk in is go right to the customer service desk and go, "What do you have behind the counter?"
Yeah.
Because usually that is the high end stuff or the stuff they have very very limited amount of.
Right.
So that's always my first stop, and this beer was back there. So it was really really good. So, but yeah, we're talking about jobbers. Jobbers have played a huge part in wrestling,
yes, they have.
for a long time. So, defining of a jobber. And jobber is basically enhancement talent is the new word for it. And they don't really use the word jobber anymore. It's enhancement talent now.
Yeah, backstage they still call them jobbers.
Yeah, but it's the guy that goes out there against any established or growing superstar, and you don't know who they are, or they're just people that lose constantly to anybody.
Yeah, and the name comes from they're doing the job for the established wrestler.
They're making that person look good.
Right, or trying to.
Whether it's a squash match where they just get destroyed, or they push this person a little bit and they have to overcome this person to get it.
Correct.
And the WWE, I mean, I remember back in the 80s and 90s, especially, the old Superstar and Challenge show.
Yeah.
That's all it was. It was Superstar A versus local guy you've never heard of before.
Right. Absolutely. And never saw again. But there were times in the storied history of WWE where they have certain superstars that come through, like a young AJ Styles went through WCW and did have some matches, or a match in WWE.
Yep.
A young Matt and Nick Jackson of the Young Bucks fame.
The Hardys.
Yeah. A lot of superstars cut their teeth on
jobber matches.
Some matches like this, and they were either doing some enhancement matches to see if they would do well, and to see if they could get into the like OVW back in the day, or FCW back in the day, or NXT now, just to see if there was anything there.
What I always look at the jobber matches is I get annoyed with them now on Raw and SmackDown just because the way they set them up. I don't mind when they used to be on Superstars and stuff like that, because what they were at the time, before we had such saturation of the shows,
right?
It was, and I'll use Macho Man as an example. You put him in a jobber match, he's going to win, but that's the match where he gets to show off his skills.
Right.
He gets to show off the kicks. He gets to show off the elbow. He gets to show off everything he can do in the ring. And it was a great way, especially for younger guys, and they do it now. They did it with Braun Strowman a bunch. Is you get to learn their style before they're in there against a more established star. Right. And if you use it that way, it makes sense.
Sure, yeah.
They don't always use it that way anymore, which gets annoying. But back in the day, that's all it was.
Yeah, absolutely. Back when I was watching a lot of Georgia Championship Wrestling, or that evolved into WCW, they did their Saturday night main event show. Or, Georgia Championship Wrestling was on Saturdays, and it was usually a larger name, like a mid-card guy going up against a jobber, and then every now and then you'd have a bigger superstar going up against a jobber, and then the main event was usually like a big name versus a big name, and that was the draw. That was the main event for that night.
Yeah, and that was the other thing is that it was also a matter of, it was filler matches for a lot of cards.
Right.
So you wanted to have a 2-hour show, but you didn't have enough talent for that. So you go, okay, fine.
Have spread it. Yeah, have spread it thin.
So instead of having, Superstar A versus Superstar B, you take those two guys, split them up, and give them in jobber matches. You give them 10 minutes. And it was always local guys. The jobbers were always sort of that. They were always advertised from the local area.
Right.
That was always the fun part when you went in there. You're like, oh, it's, we're in, Chicago. Hey, from Chicago, it's Mikey. I'm going to get my ass kicked here.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that was the local pop, and you wanted to see him go for it.
Right.
But
and how they're being used nowadays is totally enhancement talent to the tune of, usually you have someone how the E's been doing it lately. You have someone you're trying to establish maybe as a monster, a Nia Jax, a Braun Strowman, a Bludgeon Brothers. So you put them against people who they have no business being against, and they just get totally destroyed. And in the case of one specific jobber, made such an impact that they actually went on and got a contract and actually
John Cena?
Yeah, no. And actually went on to win 3 matches against the world champion.
Yeah. Ellsworth is a perfect example.
Yeah, it's a crazy example.
Of how to use a jobber right, because he was undermatched. He was against Strowman. He never should have won, and that was awesome. And you look at the jobbers through history. Like, we've got some of our favorites,
right?
And I'm going to give a couple right now, like current ones. The current jobbers I look at right now, there's 2 on the roster that I think are perfect examples.
Okay.
And it's Kurt Hawkins.
Right.
Mr. I've lost 175 matches in a row.
Right. Using that to his advantage.
And then Heath Slater.
And Rhino to this point.
And Rhino now.
Yeah.
But they're an example of how to use the jobber currently correctly. I don't mind them being around. Because what I think what it does is it's an established star that is on the show every week. So when you do beat them, it makes sense. I don't like anymore is when we do have that jobber that comes in for one night then disappears. It's sort of like, I look at the way they do that stuff is I'd be like, okay, I'm a Patriots fan, I admit it. It'd be like if the Patriots suddenly played, the East Rutherford, the local football team from the high school, or from the police force. Compared to playing the New York Giants.
Sure.
Where at least the Giants, even though they're horrible, they're a professional team.
Would put up a little bit more of a fight.
Well, that's why I like how they use Hawkins and Slater for that reason. Like, you always think they have that opportunity to win.
Sure.
The Ascension are being used that way now.
Right. Unfortunately, Fandango and Tyler Breeze are being used that way.
Now. And they're a great way. Whereas the old jobbers that were used that way, you never had any shot of it.
That's true. However, I will push back because there's a couple of jobber guys that I loved from WCW. Norman Smiley. Was not a guy that won a lot of matches.
Yeah.
And he lost a lot, but he looked great. He had the crowd over. He had the wiggle. Was it the wiggle?
Yep.
And he had a great disposition. He was fun to watch. Now he's coaching down at NXT.
I got one from WCW from you.
Who?
Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker.
Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker,
Remember
one
him?
of the trainers for the power plant.
Yeah, but remember him?
Yeah, absolutely.
He was great too.
He was on every week.
And but again, that was using a jobber. Now it was a great way of using it because you did see him every week.
Sure. Yeah. Canyon was another guy towards the end of his career was just jobbing out. And that was fine because he was enhancing the talent. He was coaching as well as, he was on TV. I mean, he was just being used in that way.
And I know sometimes the jobbers are used for the reason of sometimes you do want to put them in a veteran like that.
Sure, absolutely.
Now, so I want to talk about some of our favorite jobbers from the past. Because I really think that as much as jobber is still around, there is a class of jobber from the 80s and 90s that will never be matched.
Truth.
And one of probably the greatest jobber of all time, and I will say this without question, is Barry Horowitz.
Oh, Barry Horowitz.
Slap himself on the back. He wrestled. Do you realize he wrestled almost everybody of any level in the company when he was there?
Sure, absolutely.
And I mean everybody. He took on Honky Tonk, Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Randy. He took on everybody. There was no one he did not wrestle. So he may have a more impressive list of matches than anybody in the history.
Yeah, I would give you that.
Because he was on every week. He was against somebody. And he had a great gimmick. He used to slap himself on the back. Mm-hmm. And he was all proud of himself. And he would psych himself up. And then he would just get his ass handed to him.
Sure, absolutely. And no matter how much of a plan you have, Mike Tyson said it best. Everybody has a plan to get punched in the face.
Yeah. Oh, he would get destroyed.
He was another guy. I tell you another guy more recently who has fallen into the jobber category was Shark Boy. Remember Shark Boy?
Oh, yeah.
Had a great gimmick, had a great look, had a little bit of a run with TNA.
Yep.
But
that was the Shark Boy Stone Cold thing that was really got over.
That's what actually put him on the map. I mean, when he was just quote unquote Shark Boy from the Great Barrier Reef, or, wherever they hailed him from. I mean, he came out and he had a great look, and the people loved him. But he was not guaranteed. He was not going to win. He won occasionally, but when he did the Shark Boy 316 thing, was just
shell yeah.
Well, he actually became like more of a draw. Mm-hmm. But still, at the end of the day, he wound up jobbing out. Yeah. And let's go ahead and say this now. We have no disrespect for any of the people we're talking about. These are people that we love.
Oh no, trust me. If you told me tomorrow. And I say this complete honesty, and because a lot of these guys had really long careers. If you went to me tomorrow and said, "Okay, this is the choice. You can be with the company 2 years, you can main event, and you can be here 2 years, then you're gone, and we don't know what happened to you, or you can spend 20 years with this company, but you're going to job out most of the time, but you're on almost every week and you're everywhere." Honestly,
right.
I would have the question of I'd rather have the 20-year career. I may never win, but at least I'm around.
Yeah, totally.
It's sad to say that, but you're kind of like, all right, I'll go for it. One of my other favorite ones from the past was Leaping Lenny Poffo. It was before he became the Genius. When he became the Genius, he became more legitimate. But when he was Leaping Lenny, oh, the days. Being Randy Savage's brother does not always guarantee you success.
No, it does not.
Being the son of a great wrestler and Angelo Poffo does not guarantee you success.
Correct.
But again, he made the most out of what he had. And a lot of now there's rumor out there that a lot of his career is thanks to Randy.
Mm-hmm.
Because when he would move up, he would always say, "You can sign me, but you got to take my brother with you.
Sure.
Because he showed up in WWE the same exact time. And there's always been those stories out there that Randy took him wherever he went.
Makes sense.
And that was the deal. Is you got to you can sign me for whatever you want, but you got to bring him too. And they would do it gladly because they wanted
Randy
Savage.
Right. We've already mentioned, one of our personal favorites with James Ellsworth.
Mm-hmm.
Just nobody saw that coming. Just totally. But I'll tell you somebody that this is a borderline guy. This is a guy that was not necessarily a pure and out jobber. Okay. This is one of those guys that would win a lot, but he'd also lose a lot. But he was true enhancement because he would do amazing matches, but he would also be training up the younger wrestlers. Was Jerry Lynn.
Yeah.
TNA, WCW, WWE, all of those.
He had a huge run in the independents. ECW was his biggest run.
I don't know. Back when TNA was doing the weekly pay-per-views,
all right,
Jerry Lynn was way bigger.
Yeah.
And you're right. He had a big independent scene, but that was a little differently. But how he was used on the major wrestling companies was an enhancement jobber. And he was amazing. Jerry Lynn's still one of my favorite wrestlers, just out and out pure wrestling ability. But he was one of those guys where they were always putting him against guys that he was never going to beat because the company wasn't behind him. But he would put on truly stunning matches.
Oh yeah, and again, a good example of a good jobber in that he would go out there. And he wasn't the jobber that you would run through.
True.
Like if you put him in the ring against, like I'll use a superstar of today. You put him in the ring against an AJ Styles, you know that AJ's going to win that match, but AJ's going to have to work to win that match.
Right.
It's not going to be an easy run. And that's where Jerry Lynn was really good at that, of again, allowing a superstar to show his skill set and how he would defeat an opponent.
Right.
And that's always the fun jobbers that do that.
Right.
Another one of my favorites from the past is the Brooklyn Brawler.
Yeah. Talk about a guy who had a crazy career.
Oh, my God. And he's still with the company.
I know. And what's his official title with the company now?
I have no idea. He polishes Vince's boots. No, I don't know. He's up there. Stephen Lombardi is still, let me look it up. I'm looking it up right now. He's still with the company, and he's really well respected. He's one of the guys in the back that people look towards.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not like he's just sort of running around. But he was a guy that as Steve Lombardi, he was a pure jobber.
Right.
And then he somehow got the luckiest turn of his existence when he got hooked up with Bobby Heenan, who turned him into the Brooklyn Brawler.
Yep.
He was still a jobber, but he was with Bobby Heenan. Again, if you told me you can win a world championship or you can spend a year and a half with Bobby Heenan, but you're going to lose every match, I'd be like, I'll be with Bobby Heenan.
Right, absolutely. Just to be able to rub noses with him and learn from him.
And he still lost almost every match. And that was probably his biggest moment was that run. But again, a name we remember. I mean, who would think of the Brooklyn Brawler? But I still remember that name. I remember coming out with the hat and the Yankees ripped up shirt, and part of that was because I'm a Red Sox fan, so I hated him for that. And I remember seeing him once at the Boston Garden, and he came out in that outfit, and ooh, the booze.
Yeah.
Oh, it was bad.
I'm trying to find his name. It's totally off. I cannot find this guy's name we're talking about.
Well, I got another one for you.
Go ahead.
All right. So there's just so many to look at.
Got it.
What?
Go ahead. No, I got the guy.
Oh, okay.
Santino Marella.
Oh, yeah.
Had a little bit of a run, but for the most part, was a jobber. Loved his career. Funny. A lot of fun.
I wasn't ready.
Oh, you weren't?
No, I wasn't ready.
Oh, okay.
Can I go back in the Royal Rumble?
Yeah.
No, I wasn't ready.
Yeah, go ahead. Let me try again. Take two. Let me do the snake. So
how do you slap your arm and become a snake?
It was like but here's a guy that came out, had a good push.
Yeah.
It was great. And the longer that he stayed in, the more jobby he became.
Yeah.
But the more entertaining he became.
One of my favorite moments with him was with a guy that at one point you would consider a jobber, and I guess you can't consider him anymore, was when he was with Jinder Mahal,
Yeah.
And Jinder Mahal was playing the flute, the cobra flute.
Yeah.
And he was fighting his own hand.
Right.
Oh my.
Let's talk about that for just a second. Let's look at that group, 3MB. So you have Jinder Mahal, who's gone on to bigger and better things. Heath Slater, we'll get to Heath Slater in a minute. And then freaking Drew McIntyre,
who's come back but is currently injured.
Yeah, but
get well soon, bud. But looks amazing.
But still, he left and came back. Amazing. His career with the Independents has been pretty great. Yeah. So, I mean, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. And when they have something for Heath, he does well.
Yeah.
Like the whole thing with I Got Kids got over. God. He's a fine wrestler.
And he's getting over right now with a little bit with the whole I'm going to toughen you up.
Every time he's on TV and he's given an opportunity, he takes it and does well with it.
You know why? Because he accepts his role. And that's why I love him. And I really do love Slater for that reason. Right. Is he understands what he is. He, understands the idea that he's not the greatest wrestler in the world.
True.
But he's entertaining. He can talk. He can be funny. And he looks good getting his butt kicked. And that's what makes him a good jobber in that fact of it's not goofy. He just takes a bump really well.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, I go back to I can have a 2-year career and be a champion, or I can have a 15-year career and I can get my butt kicked every night.
Truth.
I'll take the 15-year career because he's having fun out there.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, one of my favorite from the past also is Dangerous Danny Davis.
Dangerous Danny Davis.
All right, so if you don't know, and this is for the youngin' fans. All right, so Dangerous Danny Davis is an interesting story. He was a referee in the WWE, and he legitimately was a referee. It wasn't like he just suddenly changed. And then I forget who they were wrestling, but against the Hart Foundation,
right?
He allowed the Hart Foundation to win the belts. And then through shenanigans, word you don't hear enough anymore, shenanigans.
Not nearly as much as you should.
He became a wrestler. And his gimmick was he was a wrestling referee because he came out in like the tights that looked like the referee shirt.
I remember that.
And he was Dangerous Danny Davis.
Right. All the great jobbers had like
gimmicks.
Yeah, gimmicks, but they always had like the 3 names.
Yeah.
They just always had.
Except for Barry Horowitz.
Barry Horowitz is Barry Horowitz.
But my other favorite of all time, there's 2 of my favorite of all time. We'll get to them in a second. But my other favorite has 3 names, so that does work.
Yeah.
So, you got another one or?
Yeah, I think probably in the pantheon of jobbers who not so much jobbed as much as he took he knew his role, he played it well, and he epitomized everything that was great about the Monday Night Wars.
Yeah.
Gilbert.
Oh my God. But the thing about him was he didn't start as a jobber. He started as a pope.
A parody.
And he started as a middle finger, really. That was a middle finger to WCW. And it just became hysterical.
Yeah, totally. Totally hilarious. And then the times that he was in the ring, it was not pleasant.
No. One of my favorites, again, of all time is Iron Mike Sharp.
Yeah.
Oh, Iron Mike. He was very distinctively the thing about him is number one, he was the first really big Canadian wrestler I remember, because I didn't know Bret Hart was Canadian. You didn't understand sometimes, but he made his deal as he was Canadian. But he looked like he should make it.
Right.
Like he was a big guy,
had a good physique, he had a good look.
He had a good look, and he would start a match really well, and then it would fall apart from there.
Yes. Yeah.
But again, a guy that was around forever and was in a lot of positions and never really won. But again, made his, made a lot of people look really good.
Absolutely.
So, all right. You got another one? 'Cause I got one more after that. Then we can talk about some other stuff.
I do. I do.
Okay,
actually, it's not really a job. Nah, go ahead. I'll say
so I'm going to give you a local jobber from my youth, being in the Boston area.
Okay.
That I used to go see when he used to wrestle at the old Boston Garden.
Right.
And he really only wrestled. He wrestled a few times on TV, but it was mostly around Boston. It was Pete Doherty, the Duke of Dorchester. Now, he was on a couple different shows. I'm looking at his stats right now. He did He was on Saturday Main Event once. He was in the King of the Ring once.
Wow.
But I remember when I would go to the old Boston Garden and see the monthly. But that was when they still did a monthly show in Boston.
Right.
And that was the back in the days where kids, we're going to talk about wrestling used to be. We used to watch Superstars and Challenge to set up the matches. And then we would go to the house shows before pay-per-views and see the finish to the matches. As in, remember that?
Yeah.
Like they would set up, Hulk Hogan versus the King, but it wouldn't be on pay-per-view. You would have to go to the house show to see that actual match. And I remember he was at a lot of Boston shows because he was a Boston boy. And they would always bring him out, and they would usually put him against whatever monster heel they had. So I remember watching him wrestle Andre the Giant when he was a heel, and Macho Man and The Undertaker and all these people. He just got his butt kicked. He had no teeth, and he wrestled like crap. But damn it, he went out there and had fun.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is the last one on my list.
All right.
And this is the one that when I say his name, you're going to remember him, and you're going to think, no, he did that. No, he did. No, wait, he really was just an enhancement talent. From the WCW Pantheon, gentleman Chris Adams.
Oh, yeah.
Remember him?
Yeah. I do remember him.
No matter how much they would prop up all these things that he's done around the world, and he did a lot of things.
He was with oh my God, I can't think of his name all of a sudden.
Yeah. I can't remember.
The general manager of NXT.
Huh?
He was with him for a while too.
Bischoff?
No, from NXT.
Yeah. Gentleman Chris Adams and Steve. No.
God, we're bad podcasters.
We are the worst.
I can see his face. He was manly man. Oh my God. All right. Now I got to look it up. God, we're horrible podcasters.
Well, Chris Adams would come out. He had a great gimmick, had a great look. Girls would love him, and he was strictly enhancement. And he did that for a while, and he did come over to he did come over to WWF, and they partnered him with
Steven Regal. That was the name of
Regal.
Yeah, that's right.
What were they in WWF?
That I don't remember.
I can't remember either.
But we're bad podcasters.
Yeah. Well, Steven Regal is another person we can add to the list because.
No, he had his moments.
He did have his moments, but for the most part, look at Fit Finlay.
Fit Finlay is one.
Steven Regal, all of those guys from England who were great wrestlers, who were like strictly shoot wrestlers.
Yeah,
were not hookers. They were called hookers back in the day because they're like legit fighters. And
I thought you meant they worked street corners.
No, I'm probably using the wrong term. If you're out there and you know, please let us know. But I think they were called hookers. Back in the day when real fighters were going around, but wrestling was their grappling technique. They were called hookers, shoot fighters. We call them shoot fighters nowadays. But Steven Regal was one of the guys. Gentleman Chris Adams, another one. Fit Finlay was another one of those guys who, they had a great gimmick. Yeah, they would get over from time to time, but for the most part, they were just enhancement guys. Yeah, my favorite jobber of all was the Shockmaster,
Tugboat.
And, never really got over.
Well, no. He got over when he was Typhoon with Natural Disasters.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about the Shockmaster.
Well, that didn't work. And he was Tugboat Thomas for a while, too. That sure. His only moment was when he was Typhoon.
Right. When
they were the Natural Disaster with Jimmy Hart and the Earthquake. That was when he got over. That's the only moment that...
Yeah.
But, the thing is jobbers are still necessary.
Absolutely.
And I said, but I don't mind them developing. Now... We see some jobbers developing now in the company. The Ascension are obviously going to be jobbed out forever. Breezango seems like they're going that way.
Ty
Dillinger's going that way. There's some other people that might be. I hate to say it, but Bailey and Becky might be going that way.
Maybe.
Sasha may be going that way.
Yeah.
The thing is now I wonder about the jobber of now. Is there so many opportunities now outside of the company? That like a Ty Dillinger's, for example, you can lose in this company, but then you can go make so much money on the independents.
Well, let's talk about that for just a moment, please. Let's talk about a former WWE jobber that left the company and is now creating such havoc on the independent scene. It's not even funny. Stardust, jobber, not going well.
Yeah, not go well.
Cody Rhodes, Cody, the artist formerly known as Cody Rhodes, is part of Bullet Club, Now he's starting a little feud with Kenny Omega. That's going to elevate him even further.
Yeah.
I mean, he's doing amazing things. He's making more money now than he's ever had.
Yeah.
And he says, and I quote, "I'm happier now than I've ever been."
And that's the question: is would you, if you're Heath Slater, and I hate to say it, is honestly, if Heath Slater quit tomorrow, he could be booked on a TNA or a Ring of Honor or just tour because the name is already attached to the WWE.
Right.
And it's funny now is the old jobbers had the job because there was no other option.
True. But if you look at somebody that, a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years max, Damian Sandow. Yep. Damian Sandow was released by WWE and we all freaked out because it's like, dude, he was so over.
Yeah.
But the problem is the reason he was over is because he had the perfect gimmick. He was
and now he's
foil.
nowhere.
Now he's nowhere. And I remember when he went to TNA and he got the TV time, he's like, this is just the beginning for me and I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And now it's crickets.
Yeah.
When you look at a guy like Cody or a guy like Drew Galloway, I'm not sure that people like, Heath, who's older, would definitely make the impact. But if you look at somebody like, I don't know, like a Ty Dillinger, who's already gotten over, a Becky Lynch who's already gotten over, a Bayley who's already gotten over. An Ascension who, if they would let them do their gimmick,
would roll people.
True, absolutely. Yeah. If the Ascension were to go to New Japan, and do their gimmick the way that they could do it.
Well, think about perfect example of that Tyler Breeze, and I know I love him and I harp on him.
Well, I love him too.
But imagine if you took that gimmick and took him to Japan,
right?
With the pretty boy Japanese people you already have that sort of act that way anyways, and then this white American walks out doing the same thing, they would boo him out of the building on pure hatred, and he would be huge.
I could imagine Prince Pretty going up against Naito. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He's the guy that does the thing with the eye and he points up, and he's part of the Ignobles. I can't remember the whole Spanish phrase. You know his story, by the way?
No.
So he goes up through the New Japan dojo, and they do a partnership deal. He goes to Mexico. And they make fun of him because of his eyes, because he's Japanese.
Yeah. And
so that's where this scene came from. The whole, and you can't see me, but I'm opening up my eyes like he does. This is not a video podcast, idiot. But they hound him unmercilessly.
Yeah.
And so he uses it, and he becomes a part of that faction of the Ignobles, blah, 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 blah. And his gimmick now is this whole thing where he's like a badass, and he uses the thing, and he does the eye thing and points up. And he used what he learned in Mexico, brought it back, and came back as a heel in New Japan, and brought that faction like Bullet Club from Mexico into New Japan. And he had a couple other guys that were part of it with him for a while. And now he is like huge. He literally just got done wrestling Okada was it Okada? Yeah, Okada. At Wrestle Kingdom.
Yeah.
And then the next day, after Jericho gets done with Kenny Omega, which we never talked about Wrestle Kingdom, which is pretty sad.
Yeah.
After he gets done with Kenny Omega, Jericho does a run-in on Naito.
Yeah.
So you've got this dude who's this badass Mexican-trained lucha / Japanese-trained wrestler.
That just beats people up.
Going up against Prince Pretty. Could you imagine the coolness that would be?
And it would be amazing. And okay, so I'm going to give you another name that's currently on the roster. That was a jobber, left and became huge, and came back and became a jobber. It just proves that sometimes you can't get the stink off. Is Luke Galloway.
Luke Gallows?
Yeah, Luke Gallows.
Oh, you're talking about
Luke Gallows, the club.
Yeah, buddy.
Was Festus.
Yep.
Then got cured of being Festus.
And he was part of the Straight Edge Society.
And then left to go to New Japan, became part of the most dominant team in New Japan history.
For life.
Formed the Bullet Club.
Right.
Was when a founding member of the Bullet Club.
Correct.
Finally came home.
Right.
And unless this new gimmick where he's with Finn Balor takes off, is right back where he came from.
Exactly.
Sad.
Hey, have you heard the rumor that Serena Deeb may be coming back to WWE?
No.
You remember Serena Deeb?
No.
She was part of the Straight Edge Society. She was the girl. Shaved her head.
Yeah, I remember that.
She was part of the Mae Young Classic.
Yep.
awesome.
Yeah.
And there's rumors that she may be coming back too. So yeah, so there's a lot of possibility for guys that, were jobbers could go away and come back. We've talked about Hardys. We've talked about the Hardy Boys.
Yeah. Well, Jinder's a perfect example now. Jinder's your poster boy.
Yeah, and let's talk about a young John Moxley. Do you know who John Moxley turned into?
Yeah, he became Dean Ambrose.
Dean Ambrose.
Yeah.
Look how good it's going for Dean.
Yeah. Well,
married Renee Young.
Yeah. He's at home right now being, taken care of. But
remind me his injury. What did he get hurt?
He hurt his elbow. He had to get
that's
surgery.
right. Blew his elbow.
Yeah, he blew his elbow and he had to get surgery. But yeah, no, the wrestling world is filled with people that have failed and come back and failed and come back. And
sure. But if you look at somebody like a Drew Galloway, Drew McIntyre.
Yeah, Drew McIntyre.
Drew Galloway was his independent wrestling name. A Drew McIntyre who says, you know what, I can either, lick my wounds and just feel pitiful, or I can use this as an opportunity, and then took the opportunity and then came back and he was on the path for greatness until he blew his whatever he blew out.
I got one last name for you.
Okay.
One of the best pure wrestlers that ever been in WCW, ECW, or WWE.
Shawn Michaels?
And never really got over in the way good because everybody around him was so good, and that was the problem. And he was boring as piss. Lance Storm.
I was going to say Lance Storm.
Lance Storm is a perfect example of you can have the wrestling talent and knowledge of the gods.
If I can be serious for a moment.
But God, when you talk, and you know who I see becoming that now is Finn Balor.
Yeah.
Lance was great. You match wise, you're like, this is awesome. Then he would grab the mic and go, there's a reason why you're not going to be ever over.
I think Finn has a lot more personality than Lance.
No, I agree with that. But I'm glad that he's with the club now. But that's my fear with Finn is that I see that happening because, God, Lance was great in the ring. Lance was awesome in the ring.
Do you know he has a podcast?
I tried to listen to it once.
You didn't like it?
No.
He's gotten better.
Has he?
You should listen to it again.
All right.
Now that Don Callis is the Virus, Cyrus the Virus is the color guy at New Japan, and now he is part of the new brain trust for TNA.
TNA, yeah.
The show's gotten a lot better. It's really fun. Actually, Lance has a lot of personality.
Yeah.
It's scary.
But
he learned it. It's a learned skill.
He's a learned skill. Well, he learned from Jericho. And that was always funny part. Is if you look at the two careers, we're getting off subject now. Lance Storm and Chris Jericho came up together.
Yep.
Like they admit, if it wasn't for the two of them, they wouldn't have made it.
Correct.
And you got one of the most charismatic superstars of all time in Chris Jericho.
Right.
And Lance Storm.
Well, Jericho's another success story. I mean, he was jobbing at WCW.
Oh, he was hugely jobbing at WCW.
And then he came over, and because he was bringing WCW over to Monday Night Raw, they pushed him a little bit, and that's all he needed.
Yeah. And he took off and became
the greatest of all time.
One of the greatest top 5 talkers of all time.
He's a GOAT.
Yeah. So, anything else you want to say?
No, man. Love the jobbers, man. It's good stuff.
We need jobbers. I like to thank Jackie O for your dark apparition. Mine's gone. I liked it a lot.
I totally drank mine.
I liked it a lot. When you're ready to put your beer down.
Beer, you're so dumb. You think Barry Horowitz was the United States champion.
Wait, wasn't he?
Nope.
No? Ever?
I don't think so. I don't know. Beer, are you that dumb? I don't know. I don't know. I'm just making that up.
Head over to vintagepressing.com, vintagepressing.com, where you can get drink coasters, luggage tags, phone cases, and more.
Will you please come visit us over... Sorry. My brain went somewhere else for a second. Come visit us over at beersandbodyslams.com, where you can see all of our show archives. You can see all of our great sponsors, and visit us at facebook.com/beersandbodyslams podcast. You can see all of our social media stuff there. And one thing that we would ask is you go to youtube.com and search for Beers and Body Slams, and then you'll see our YouTube channel. Now, we're trying to get the vanity URL, and we need some people to subscribe. We've got about 5. We need about 20 more people. Just being transparent. We need 20 people to like us, and you can listen to the show on YouTube, which is a pretty cool thing. We appreciate you guys doing that. And we would love to have you as part of our YouTube family. Yeah. We get 25 followers, we'll start putting more content out.
Yeah, well, we got some fun stuff we want to do.
Yep.
Also, you can follow us on Untappd. You can see what we're drinking. You can follow good old JB when he is feeling better. You can follow me at Mr. Fluffy as I make my liver and kidneys into jobbers of the rest of my body.
And you can watch me as I turn my liver into the Shockmaster at The Irish O'Leary.
Make sure you tune in on Thursday. We're going to talk about Raw and SmackDown. We're getting ready for we're on the horse path.
Yes.
To the trail that leads to the road to WrestleMania.
Yes.
We're getting close.
We'll probably also be talking about the mixed tag.
Well,
thing.
No, we won't be yet because it be after that. Well, no, you're right. No, you're right.
Before.
You're right. It is.
Yep.
See what happens when you record and then forget what day you're recording on? Yeah. And we'll also be talking about, because that will be the Raw before the 25th anniversary. So I'm sure Raw will be good, but I'm sure we'll start talking about who's coming up for the 25th. So we got some good stuff coming.
Sweet.
And then we'll be back next Monday for a fun little topic show from there.
Yep. Looking forward to it, guys. Come back and see us.
That's right. As always, make sure your pint glass is full and your body slam stiff.
Dig it.
You've been listening to the Beers and Body Slams podcast. Find us online at beersandbodyslams.com and on Facebook at facebook.com/Beers and Body Slams podcast. Until next time.
Have a nice day.